like a side piece. Come in this truth plan and treat you like a side piece. He's the God of mercy and wrath. So do you wanna fly or do you keep the Bible on cop? The Most High is my rock.
TK.
Rock. The Most High is my rock. The Most High is my rock. The Most High is my rock. In the name of Messiah, the Most High is my rock. The Most High is my rock. The Most High is my rock. Yeah. The Most High is my rock. I keep my Bible on cop. The Most High is my rock. No time for cupcake and the cutting. Hit the streets and start cutting. The Israelites are bubbling. The Israelites are coming. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. You can keep the stuffing. It's pagan, disdain, it's vain, it's nothing. The European Union about to hit the button. And I feel sorry for you if you think the Lord is bluffing. That's why I hit the booth and I tell the truth. Are you fishing with the truth? Homie, where's your fruit? If the Most High is your rock, don't treat him like a side piece. Come in this truth plan and treat you like a side piece. He's the God of mercy and wrath. So do you wanna fly or do you keep the Bible on?
Shalom Israel. Shalom Israel.
Shalom.
Salakia. Welcome to another class here at 8524 South Braeswood Boulevard, Houston, Texas. Zip code 77071. Welcome to another class here with ISBHBK. We're located here in Houston. Our class days is Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Fridays from 6 to 8 p.m. and Saturday Shabbat morning class is from 10 a.m. to about 2 p.m. We also got a school located in Norfolk, Virginia, and the address out there is 2610 Granby Street, Norfolk, Virginia. Zip code 23517, and the class times and days for out there in Norfolk, Virginia is Tuesdays and Thursdays, every 7 to 9 p.m. Every Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and Fridays is from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time as well. And their Shabbat class, it will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time when they get it up and running. And also we got a school out in San Antonio, Texas as well. So hit us up and we'll get you the information to the school out in San Antonio, Texas, along with the school out in Albuquerque, New Mexico as well. And we just got done celebrating Hanukkah, and we have the Feast of Purim coming up soon. So again, we got the Feast of Purim coming up soon. And that feast is the Feast of Gift Giving. And Purim. We give gifts on the Feast of Purim. Also, we got Passover coming up on the 12th of April as well. Again, Passover will be on the 12th of April. So definitely.
In San Antonio.
And it's in San Antonio as well. Passover is coming up on the 12th of April, and it will be in San Antonio.
Yeah, they're going to host this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to host it this year, so I'm gonna put it out there early. We still have to pay for the lamb. So if you want to help out with that, we need about 10, 11 lambs. All right, that's a hefty bill. So if you want to help out with the lambs, it's early. We're putting it out there early because we want to get on it early. They're going to take care of the venue in San Antonio, here in Houston. We have to take care of the lambs. So if you want to help out with that, let us know. Okay? Go ahead. What else?
And also we got the kids classes. That should be on the screen. Mashaba does the Blog Talk Radio live from Albuquerque, and that's every Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 9:30 a.m. Again, Mashaba does the Blog Talk Radio every Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 9:30 a.m. out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And that link is blogtalkradio.com/Mashaba. Again, it's blogtalkradio.com/Mashaba. So definitely check that out. We should have the Israel flyer on the screen as well, accepting orders from that. And if you'd like to contact any of the priests, we got priest Quatazap to my far left. His number is 303-557-8979. Again, priest Quatazap, he's to my far left. His number is 303-557-8979. And priest Kazakia in Norfolk, Virginia as well. His number is 281-707-2737. And for any donations, anything like that, the Wells Fargo account number is on the screen. The Google Wallet information is on the screen as well. And if you'd like to send in a donation, you can definitely send it to any of the school addresses as well. If you'd like to send in a donation. So with that,
before you send anything to the schools,
oh yes,
you can contact us so we can give you an address, because we're not always at the actual school buildings, and we don't always get the packages. So before you mail anything out, hit me up, and I'll give you an address that you can mail things to. All right. Again, anything you want to help out with Passover, with the lamb that's coming up. We put out there for the brothers and sisters on the group chat a list of needed things for Virginia and for Houston, for the schools that brothers and sisters can help out with. The lamb being the most important thing for right now, because it's the most expensive thing. All right. So again, if you want to help out with that, feel free to send that to us. Hit us up. Let us know. All right. So that's it for the announcements. We're gonna get into this class. Another good little knowledge class, and we're gonna go over. The brothers are gonna go over the. We're gonna go over the differences of, and is there a difference with Israelite tradition and the law? And we have to go over it because we want to make sure that, for one, the scriptures say to rehearse the righteous acts. That's first and foremost. And in that rehearsal, you're able to build up a level of, for lack of better terms, perfection. And as we strive to come back to the Most High, we want to make sure that we're doing the things that keep us close to Him. Right? So we want to make sure that we're keeping His laws, keeping the tradition, but knowing the difference between the two. All right? Because, and as we go through the class, I don't want to give it away, but as we go through the class, it's very important that we know the difference between the two. All right, so where are we going to start at? Where we going to start?
So, like you said, knowing the difference between the two, because you can definitely, just like how in Christianity, you thought that you were celebrating Jesus' birthday, Christmas, and that's just a tradition. It ended up being a tradition that you kept and labeled it something towards the Bible, but it's not.
And that turned out to be a wicked tradition.
Exactly.
Because because we have righteous traditions.
We do.
Right? That it's still good to know if I perform this tradition or not, where do I stand with the Most High?
Mm-hmm.
Now we know if you do Christmas, you're garbage.
Yes, sir.
You're garbage in the Most High's eyes, right? Because the customs of the people are vain.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we know that Christmas is, it is a tradition of the Christians, of the Christian church. And they just say, oh yeah, December 25th, that's Jesus' birthday. That's tradition, baby. Right? That's our tradition. But we know biblically, that's not even a tradition of the Bible. That's a custom of the people is vain, and then it has nothing to do with Yahweh Shai.
Exactly.
But we do, as Israelites, have customs that, as we go through them, we're going to see, if I don't keep this custom, where do I stand with the Most High? Where do I stand with the Father? That's very important.
Is it wicked or is it not wicked? Are you sinning or are you not sinning?
Right, basically. Am I sinning because I don't do this tradition or because I do this tradition? Mm-hmm. Or obviously we know the law.
Yeah.
And is tradition law? That's very important to know.
God.
Right? So
we're going to start off with a definition, the definition of law.
Right? I'll read it for you. Mm-hmm. I make myself useful.
Can I make a point too?
Yes, sir.
One of the points I wanted to make too, especially regarding this class, is like who the class pertains a lot to, brothers and sisters that's like just waking up to the truth. Mm-hmm. Because, think about when you just woke up to the truth. You were like, okay, what do I do? What is it that I need to do? I'm an Israelite, okay, all right, what is it? What I need, now what? What is it that I need to do? What can I do? What can I not do? What am I supposed to do? What am I not supposed to do? And for some of us, I'm not gonna say some of us, but for a lot of us, it's like some things, and we're gonna touch into it. Some things that are tradition, we're like, oh crap, we put so much
emphasis
and so much emphasis on it that it's like
now if you do this, and we're gonna go into the things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But if you do certain things that, you're wicked if you don't do it, or if you do it.
Right.
But it's like, wait a minute, who taught you that? And where does it say that that's law?
God.
Right? Let me say this though. You got a lot of old brothers that are stuck on tradition, and it's like, well, where's that in the law?
God.
Right? So we're gonna go through a few of these things, man. It's important, and we touch on them a lot. We go over these things a lot, but it's good to know that there is a difference.
Yes, sir.
So when you said the first definition we're gonna hit is law.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll read that. Law. It says a binding custom or practice of a community. Mm-hmm. Right? So a rule of conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized as binding or enforced by a controlling authority.
Okay, so this is something that if you don't do it, there's some type of repercussion behind it. Yeah. It says enforced by a controlling authority, and we know our controlling authority is the Most High. So if the law is broken, if we're doing something against the law, He's the one that's going to be the controlling enforcer, authority figure when it comes to that.
Can I add a little bit more to that?
Yes, sir.
And I went to the Webster's 1828 just to give a little bit more. It says, written law, a law or rule of action prescribed or enacted by a sovereign and, and recorded in writing. A written statute, an ordinance. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. The word of God, the doctrines and precepts of God, or of His revealed will. Moral law, let's see here. A law which prescribes to men their religious and social duties. Laws, let's see here. Right. You see that? Laws are imperative or mandatory, commanding what shall be done. So it's showing you here what the definition of law is.
Yeah.
Right? The rule, particularly established or permanent rule, prescribed by the supreme power of a state to its subjects for regulating their action, particularly their social actions. You see that? So, and I got that. You just go to the Webster's 1828 dictionary, just type in law. It gives you like 30 different definitions of law. I just picked out the ones that were pertinent to the class.
Got it.
Right? So what else we got? That's it for law. Where you want to go next?
So now we got the understanding of what the law is. Uh-huh. Now, we understand with the law, there's a repercussion for not following it. So, and my goal for the class is just so you can see the contrast between the law and tradition.
Right.
Like that's why I wanted to make that reiterate that there's repercussion for breaking the law. So now we're going to hit tradition.
Tradition. It says an inherited, established, or customary pattern of thought, action, or behavior. It says the handing down of information, beliefs, and customs by word of mouth or by example from one generation to another without written instruction. Now, let me say something on that real quick. We do have to remember that even our laws, before they were handed from Moses to the people, they were oral. We had an oral tradition But there was still a difference between thou shalt not and a tradition or a custom.
Yeah.
Right? And as we go through the class, we'll get you guys will get the understanding. We do have to remember the Mosaic law was oral. It was an oral tradition or orally handed down before it was written. All right?
Yes, sir.
But that doesn't take away the fact that there is a difference between a law and difference between customs and tradition. And as we go through the class, I got to reiterate that and say that because you'll say, well, we had an oral tradition. So now what? We did. You're absolutely right. But there's a difference still, even when Adam was handing down the law orally to his family, to the nation, he was doing what? He was giving them the law, the statutes, the commandments, and what? What came after? It starts with a J.
The judgments.
He was giving them the judgments.
Yeah.
Just like Moses gave us the law, statutes, commandments, and the judgments.
Right.
That's the difference, and you pointed it out. There's a repercussion for breaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we definitely got to make sure that we understand, even though even though the law was oral tradition or orally handed down before Moses, the law had laws, statutes, commandments, and there were judgments.
Yes, sir.
Where tradition was just things that were inherited, established custom, pattern of thought, action, or behavior. Like, for instance, let's give y'all one. Well, let's not give y'all one. Well, yeah, let's give y'all one, right? Let's get into it. Or
I have like just some manners of tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Now these are just manners. These are just when you're around people, you do these things out of manners, and it's a learned tradition in some cultures and in some places.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go into someone's house, taking off your shoes. You don't want to stomp dirt all over their house. Is it wicked not to take off your shoes? No. But I remember I used to do door-to-door sales a lot back in the Gap. And they used to my manager at the time, he told me that if I will take off my shoes when I go into someone's house, they will feel like I'm a more respectable person and someone that they can believe and trust. So I would take off my shoes when I go into someone's house. Yeah. They'll let me in, I just start taking off my shoes. They'll say, oh, no, you have to do that. Or they won't say nothing. Either or.
Because it shows a sense that you care for their property.
Got it.
Kind.
Right?
But it's like a tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people, because he would say, hey, when I was growing up, my mom would slap me across the head if I walked into the house with the shoes on.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a tradition he grew up with, taking off his shoes. So there's lots of traditions, and we're going to get into more of more biblical traditions. But I'm sure that you out there.
And I got one just to go with that.
Oh yeah.
Remember when Moses went up the burning bush? What's the first thing the Most High told him to do?
Oh, take off your shoes.
He said, take off your shoes when you're standing on holy ground. But he was outside.
Nice.
But think about this. Is it written in the law? Thou shalt take off thy shoes when I step on the mountain?
Law.
Or when you step in somebody's house, like you have to take off your shoes?
Law.
See, it's things like that where, well, Moses took his shoes off. God, he did. But has that been an established law that when you go into someone's house, like thou must take off thy shoes or you're wicked? And here's the judgment: cut his feet off.
Oh, dang, that's a harsh judgment.
But you see what I'm saying?
God.
How we've taken a tradition, because I'm pretty sure that taking off of the shoes, they got that from Moses taking his off
At
on
the
the
burning
mountain.
bush.
At the burning bush. And that passed all the way and translated to when you walk in somebody's house, take off your shoes. And the ancient Chinese, they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The ancient Japanese, they do it. Some Hindu customs, they probably do it. But they took it from something that was done by Moses and said, you know what, we're gonna hold on to this tradition, tweak it, twerk it, flip it a little bit, and now it's customary that when you go to someone's house, you just start to just unheal, right? And then either it's up to them to say, oh no, you're good,
Right.
or yeah, I got a shoe rack right here, put your shoes.
God.
Depending on how white they want to keep their carpet,
Right.
or how anal retentive. Some people are real anal about that, like walking through their house with the outside shoes on. I get that. I don't like doing it, but I mean, I don't really trip on it. I got tile.
Yeah, Ty.
You can mop every day.
Yes, sir.
I got a mopper.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Got a sweeper and a mopper. Right. So just giving y'all an idea of tradition that's been taken all the way from the depths of time, and now it's still used today.
Yeah.
But is it wicked if you don't take your shoes off?
Nah.
It definitely isn't.
No. And since you had your hand up.
Oh, I was just saying, like, I heard that a lot of Asians do it just because, like, it's, it's dirty. You be stepping in dog food and, germs and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you breathe the dirty air, don't you? You take your lungs out. I mean, I can get into the over righteousness of everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
So, if I can get Isaiah 5:13 real quick. Isaiah 5, chapter 5 and verse 13.
I'll read it into the back.
Just to go into it real quick.
Isaiah 5 and verse 13.
Yes, sir.
I'll read it. Let me know when you're ready.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 5 verse 13. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity.
So, our people, remember, we're in slavery. That's first and foremost. Go ahead.
Because they have no knowledge.
And we went into slavery because we lacked knowledge of the Most High. Well, we had it, but we chose not to follow it. But right now, we definitely still lack that knowledge of the Most High and His laws and His statutes, His commandments, and the way He wants things to be done. That's why the scripture says, rehearse the righteous acts. Go ahead.
But the funny thing is we have a lack of knowledge, and let me just add this. We have this lack of knowledge of the Most High, but we have a lot of knowledge of tradition.
Go ahead.
We know all these traditional things like, again, Christmas, New Year's, Easter. When you get sick, put a lemon under your sock, or put a lemon in your sock.
Put an onion.
Put an onion in your sock. Hang a potato from your door.
Yeah.
Right. We know all these tradition.
Like the mistletoe, the
right.
Just all the garbage that we've been taught.
Right.
Since being in captivity. So
and especially the vain traditions.
Yeah.
Right. So we know all those. And it says, and their honorable men are famished.
And this is one of the reasons, this is one of the main reasons why we went into captivity. It's because our honorable men, our elders that cease from the gate, they're famished, but they're not famished of food. They're famished of doing the things that the Most High wants, the Most High's laws. So our honorable men, because as the leader is, so is the officers, so is the people. Our leaders, they've gone into tradition more than into the actual law. So when you go into like the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were into tradition. They weren't into the law and the commandments. Well, they were to a certain extent, but they were more into the traditions that they have done, that their fathers passed on. We're gonna touch on some scriptures on that as well. But and that's where the issue comes from, is that's what we've been taught too. And especially coming into today, a lot of us that wake up to being Israelites, we follow the tradition. We follow the traditions of these fake Jews, of these fake Amalekites. I mean, not fake Amalekites, but these Amalekites that's pretending to be us. We follow their customs and their traditions and how they want to follow the Bible and follow the Torah, and we follow a lot of their madness, and we take it as book. And that's why this next scripture, Ephesians chapter 3 and 4.
Let me finish this up. It says, they are famished and their multitude dried up with thirst.
Yeah. So the honorable men are famished and the multitude is dried up with thirst. So the multitude of the people, they're dried up along with the elders. We're dried up, man. And we just move off of what we've been taught, the traditions that we've been taught, and we don't know 100% what the Most High wanted from us. And we take the traditions more seriously than we take the actual laws of the Bible seriously.
Yeah, get Ephesians chapter 3 and verse 4. Because just like how he said, we'll take the traditions more seriously than we take the actual law of the scriptures. And think about it. We're just, people are just doing what they learned, what someone showed them versus actually finding out for themselves. I think about people in the Catholic Church and all the things that they do, but no one knows the book. No one knows what the book says.
At all.
But they're continually on these traditions.
Yeah.
Continually on them. Like the Hail Marys.
The saints.
The confession.
Yeah.
The confession booth.
The Ash Wednesday.
So these are all things that they just don't know.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't read.
And you know what else sucks about the traditions too is that we've been so like the scripture says, you know, we have our conscience seared with a hot iron. We become so seared with these traditions that when you show somebody, listen, Christmas ain't in the Bible, they don't even want to see what the actual book says. They're so caught up in the tradition of doing Christmas every December the 26th. When you show somebody Easter ain't in the Bible, you really should be celebrating Passover. They rather do Easter because of that tradition that's been passed down instead of actually doing what the book says, the Passover. So, I mean, the list goes on.
Yes, sir.
The list goes on about all of it. But y'all got questions?
In Spanish, we call it maña.
Mm-hmm.
Maña is a habit. So you got maña is the malo, you know what I'm saying? Like bad habits, and then you got good habits.
Yeah.
But it's maña, so it's like someone moving in a particular way, and you could recognize it. Now, us understanding it now is like, oh, you're moving in a certain type of spirit. But like those unnecessary spirits are negative mañas that through the scripture we're able to like cleanse it out.
Con. That's why, read where you at.
Ephesians chapter 3 verse 4. Whereby when you read.
When you do what?
When ye read.
No, when you just only listen.
When ye read.
See, because you need to read,
Ooh.
you got to open up the book. Yes, you can come watch class. You can attend many sermons, attend many classes, watch many videos, but you still have to do your own reading. You have to read.
God.
Read on.
Ye may understand my knowledge.
You may do what?
Understand.
See, this is when you're getting the understanding. You got to get the food so that your body can start to digest it. If you're not even getting it, you're still stuck on how do you say? Third person knowledge. You're on third person knowledge. Now, it's one thing for me to get information and then learn it, and I want to help teach you, but then you still got to get it too.
That's right.
Because from me to you, it helps. It's to spark the interest, but it's supposed to help you get into the book too and read yourself so that you can get the understanding. Which might even spark more questions. It usually does. Sparks more questions. But the point of it is, you got to read.
You know, speaking on mania, for myself personally, I combating with my mania. So like, more recently, I know I needed to read, but I went to go itch the mania to where I ended up tripping and falling on my face. And all I should have just done was just gonna read, sat down and read. You know what I mean?
And that's where a lot of people fall when it comes to tradition and versus the law, because they could be thinking they're doing something right, but they're really not. They could be thinking that what they're doing is they're following the law, but it really don't make a difference if you did it or not. You can finish that off.
You may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Christ.
Con. So from there, we're going to go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 15. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 15. And just going on how we need to stand firm on the scriptures, stand firm on what we've been taught through the Spirit, through the teachers breaking down these scriptures. Go ahead.
2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 15.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which ye have been taught, whether by word or our epistle.
The epistles were something that were read. They were the letters written, which is the scriptures that we have before us today. So anytime Paul was sending out epistles, sending out these letters, he was bringing all his knowledge from the law. He was a Pharisee. He knew the law, backwards and forwards, upside down, and turned in a circle. He knew it. So, just going off of that point, we're going to jump over to Mark chapter 7 and start at verse 2. And through this block of scriptures, what we're gonna see is how Yahushua dealt with the Pharisees and the Sadducees when it comes to tradition, either if that's breaking the law or sinning, or if it's just something that you just took as a tradition. It's not law. It's just something that you chose to do.
Yeah.
Or that was done from generation to generation. That wasn't a commandment. Yeah, what we're gonna do? Yeah, we're gonna go through these different traditions. We're gonna hit on all these different traditions that if you don't do them, does it make you wicked? Does it make you off? Does it make you a sinner? That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. Are you sinning because you don't do these things? Go ahead.
Mark chapter 7, verse 2. And when they saw some of his disciples.
So what's the first tradition? Is of the washing of the hands.
The washing of the hands.
Right, the washing of your hands. Now, think about it. When you come home from outside and you about to eat, first thing your mama tell you, go wash your hands. Go wash your hands. Go wash your hands. Go wash your hands. Right? Because you've been outside, you've been running around. I remember that. I remember as a kid playing in the dirt all day. Right? Grabbing little roly-polies. Worms out from under rocks.
Yep. Little baby Noah.
I was getting all the bugs. That's what I was doing. And putting them in little bottles and capturing them and just filthy. And I'd come in, go wash your hands before you eat. Now, what's the problem with that?
What's the problem with that?
What's the problem with that?
There isn't.
Well, my whole body was dirty.
Yeah.
I was outside in the mud. Everything was filthy. It wasn't like, go take a whole bath. It was just, we're just worried about your hands. Because they touch things, right?
Right.
But my shirt had mud. My knees, I was on my knees. I was sitting on my butt. I would even do this. So the point that I'm trying to show is that if the tradition was to clean your hands, but really it was, you were supposed to be clean all through.
Yeah.
But we held on to one part of the tradition, which was, just wash your hands. But when you read through the scriptures, because it comes from the priests, they washed their hands, they washed their feet. They had running water at the temple. Before they entered into the holies of holies, they were supposed to wash their hands, feet, face. But we held on to one part of it, which was what?
Washing your hands.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands. And we get it. It's for cleanliness' sake.
God.
But what's the point of having clean hands if you got dirty clothes? You see the point? So watch. Read the scripture.
Mark chapter 7, verse 2. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands.
Yeah, they ate bread. They didn't have time to wash their hands. They probably had nowhere to wash their hands.
Right?
Right? Go ahead.
They found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not. Holding the tradition.
Holding what?
The tradition.
Go ahead.
Of the elders.
See, it was traditional.
Yeah.
That we washed our hands oft. But what was that to signify? What were we trying to signify?
Cleanliness.
Right. Cleanliness, right? But did it make you a sinner because you couldn't wash your hands out in the field but you was hungry?
A lot.
No. It didn't make you a sinner, but it was a tradition that, hey, we kept our hands clean. We cleaned up before we ate. We cleaned up before we went into the temple. Now, was it wicked if you didn't? You couldn't wash your hands. You had dirty knuckles. You had a dirty garment. And you were hungry. Was I supposed to wait till I washed my hands before I stuck a morsel down my throat?
You know, did David wash his hands when he ate the showbread?
That whole situation,
he was on the run.
That whole situation technically was unlawful, and he wasn't put to rest. But yeah, did they walk in the temple like, hey, where's the water at? Let me wash my hands. Nah, they walked in and was like, yo, we hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the priest didn't even check him. The priest wasn't even like, well, hold on, before y'all touch this showbread that y'all not even supposed to be eating, did you wash your hands?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's up?
When I was in Arizona, it was myself and a Reubenite brother, who were doing security for these white Jews,
Uh-huh.
right? And the way they do it, because they taught us how to do it, was first they get a pitcher of water. You're holding that pitcher of water with the right hand. You pick up your sleeve with your left hand, and you're saying a prayer, dipping water over that. Once that's done, you put it down, grab the pitcher with your left hand, say the prayer, pour the water on your hand, put it down. Then you say another prayer for washing your hands, and then you're done. You dry your hands, and then you go.
Yeah, that's pretty extensive.
But you see, that was what I was saying earlier. A lot of what we've learned, and I don't know any brothers and sisters that do that, but a lot of what we learned has came from them.
Yeah.
You know, what's the point of me just pouring water on my hand? Like, you kind of want to like scrub and get it off.
Oh, you're right.
You see what I'm saying?
You know, like, and then they're touching it first with their dirty hand, and then putting it in their clean to make it dirty again.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Good
make
point.
sense.
Good point. But read on, brother.
But you see how, but let me say one thing, how you get caught up in tradition, it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Colin.
Am I supposed to starve because I can't wash my hands? Because yes, you do it for the cleanliness sake. But I've ate with dirty hands and not gotten sick. I don't remember to wash my hands every single time before I eat. Right?
Colin.
I mean, let's look at it like this. The place you go out to eat, is it the most cleanliest? You don't know. You ain't back there cooking and cleaning. See, it was all a matter of keeping us clean, but the question is it unlawful to eat with dirty hands?
No.
It's not.
Let's read it. Watch, go ahead.
Verse 3.
Verse 3. For the Pharisees.
For the who?
For the Pharisees.
For the who?
For the Pharisees.
Now, who were the Pharisees? They were hypocrites, right?
Done.
They were a sect unto themselves. So they created their own customs. Go ahead.
And all the Jews, except they, wash their hands off. Eat not, holding to the tradition of the elders.
Okay, see, they're just holding the practices that was passed on to them, the customs, the traditions. You know, it's not it wasn't the scriptures lay it out in this way to let you know that it was a tradition, not a law that they were doing.
Yeah.
Now, as we went through the definition, the law has a repercussion behind it. A tradition does not. Read on.
Verse 4. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not.
Uh-huh.
And many other things there be, which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, basin vessels, and of tables.
Read.
The Pharisees and scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands?
Yeah, why does your disciples not do what we do? How come they're not following the same customs and traditions that us hypocrites do?
God.
We're the examples of righteousness, and they're not following us. They're not doing what we do.
Wow.
Right. You know how the Pharisees was a sect that separated themselves from others, right? You know, it just hit me while we're reading this and thinking about it. Can you imagine the amount of traditions that they had that they made themselves separate from other people?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you know, one thing with us Israelites, unfortunately, is, and just in general, one thing with us in general, if you don't do what I do, I don't mess with you. If you don't do what I do, I don't even want to be by you. I don't want to partake with you. I don't want to be unified with you. We're not the same. And that's the thing about the traditions, man, especially with these Pharisees right here. They already want to separate themselves from Christ and the disciples just because they didn't wash their hands. Well, bro, how come you didn't just bring some water and made them wash their hands?
Yeah, why weren't they even trying to be brotherly,
Yeah.
doing what the law says? Like, oh shoot, if you see your brother falling, oh hold on, bro, I got you. Let me get this basin. Here, I got you, man. Help you wash up before you eat.
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's like I can paint the picture in my head and see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm an outsider and I come to somebody that's never been around me, and I do something that they're not accustomed to, and instead of them helping me out or showing me, they're like, this nigga.
Yeah, they wanna watch you and sit back just so they can ridicule you about not doing the customs that they did.
Exactly.
Real quick, Mustafa, I'm trying to understand your question. You said, question, a brother recently told me that men praying or teaching with their head covered is a tradition and isn't in the law. I went to 1 Corinthians 11:4. He said that that's not law. He says he doesn't teach with his head covered out of respect. Well, remember, when you go to that chapter, when you go to Corinthians 11, right? 1 Corinthians 11. Paul starts out and says, be ye follower of 1 Corinthians 11:1, be ye followers of me, even also as I am of Christ. And this is going right into the class. I like it. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered them unto you. And then he goes in and talks about a man being uncovered, man praying with his head covered, right? Now, when you go into Numbers, and you got to remember, Paul was taking all his information from what? Where did his ordinances come from? Came from Yahushua. He said, be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. What did Christ deal with? The law. So when you do go into the priest's garments, and you go into where's that with Dimitri? Right, Exodus. You can go to Exodus 39:28. Read that real quick.
Exodus chapter 39 and verse 28.
Right.
And a mitri.
And a what?
And a mitri.
A yarmulke.
A mitri.
Go ahead.
Of fine linen.
Right.
And goodly bonnets.
And a yarmulke.
A mitri.
So how come the Jews today switched up the whole headgear? So they went from a mitri, we went from a mitri and bonnets that had the crown of our heads exposed. So you could still have wear the priest's garment, but we had our crown of our head exposed. How come the Jews of today, the fake Jews, they cover that crown? Yeah, well, yeah, it's definitely because they're fake, but they adopted a different tradition. So to say that it wasn't against the law to have our head covered is right here. It's right here. He said not to cover our head when we pray or prophesy. It's a dishonor. So yeah, that is the law. It is the law. And then what did America do for a tradition? When you go into a building, you take off your hat out of respect. Right? When you do the national anthem, you take off your hat as respect. Right? When you go into a government building, what does the military do? They take their hat off. That's their tradition. But they just took that from the scriptures. But lawfully, a man didn't cover his head. We had the head dress with that crown exposed. That's with the bonnet, the mitri, everything was cut out.
Yeah.
When you look at a mitri, the way it was wrapped.
It had
it basically had that crown exposed when you wore the mitris. And when you wore the head, the matazampa, right? You had your crown exposed. So regardless of anything, Paul, all he was doing was giving more edification on the law. Remember, he said keep the ordinances. He didn't say keep the tradition, the order of things. The order came from the law. Remember, when was 1 Corinthians 11 established?
After Christ?
No. This was established in Adam and Eve time when the Most High gave the law.
Yeah.
Right? He put the woman underneath the man. Man, woman, children.
Okay.
Right? He established that at that time. So all Paul was reiterating was what was already been established. Paul didn't go against or create his own law or create his own tradition. When he said, I'll give you another one. When Paul said, ordain elders in the church, right? And he pulled out and gave us 1 Timothy's the 3rd chapter of a bishop. Where did he get that from? Did he get that from Moses?
Yep.
Where the Most High told Moses, ordain 70 elders, men that weren't covetous, men that were this, men that were that, believers of the Most High.
God.
Right?
God.
That's law.
God.
It's law that you establish righteous men in the church. You're not going to establish, like he said, not a novice. Right? So remember, Paul always dealt with the law when he was bringing things out. He might have just edified. And then when he wasn't dealing with the law, what did he say? What will Paul say when he wasn't dealing with the law?
Oh, he would say,
I speak as a man.
He said, I would speak this for your benefit, but it's not law.
Right.
Right? When you go to 2 Corinthians 7, I believe, he would let you know when it was his advice or his wisdom and not the law per se. Because what's wrong with taking wisdom from a wise man? Nothing. Right? Was it 2 Corinthians 7 or 1 Corinthians 7 where he was talking about husbands and wives? Yes. 1 Corinthians 7, where he would say, let's see here, verse 6, but I speak this by permission and not of commandment. So he let us know what was the law and what was his wisdom on things and his insight. 1 Corinthians 11 was not his insight, that was the law. 1 Corinthians 7, he was given his insight on relationships. Because was it the law for a man not to have a woman?
Wow.
Was it like unlawful if you didn't have a woman? Or was it unlawful if you had one? You see that? So we gotta, again, that's why we're going through this to show what's the law and what's tradition.
I was gonna say you can read verse 12 too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Verse 12, but to the rest I speak I.
No, but to the rest speak I.
Speak I, not the Lord.
God.
Right. You see that? So he was giving his advice through the knowledge.
God.
But letting us know that the difference between what was law, this is book, and what was wisdom. Right? We do it all the time. Right? We do it all the time. Like in the school, like we got school rules, and we let it be known. Like this is the school rule, right? But it's not the Bible book per se. But this is the school rule. If you want to be with this school, follow the rule. Right? But we can't say, well, you broke the school rule, you sinned. No, you just broke the school rule. You see? So we definitely have to make sure we're clear on that. And that's why we're going through this. That's why we're going through it, because a lot of men will be like, well, that's not the law. Well, yeah, it is. Or that is the law. Well, no, it's not. That's tradition. And then if it's the law, then how come if it's the law, then why do the fake Jews not follow the law? They follow all the other laws, right? Kosher food, this, that, Sabbath, So all of a sudden they just cover their heads. Well, because they follow a different tradition. You see that? So let's jump back. I mean, Mustafa, hopefully you got that.
Yeah, I like that.
Man, don't let these guys come with that nonsense, man. You got to stand on your square, bro. I know you in there. Stand on your square, man. This is what it's about. Brothers got to, and remember, it's really always someone trying to interject, again, their vain philosophies, tradition of men, and why not they do something. Like, you're going to do something just out of respect for another brother? Does that even make sense? No, I'm not going to follow the Bible out of respect for another brother. I'm following the Bible out of respect of the Most High. So I'm going to do what the hell the Bible says. Not because I respect you dearly, now I'm going to wear a headband. Or I respect you, so now I'm going to wear my fringes. Or I respect you, so I'm going to wear my beard. That's foolishness. But that's why we get caught up in, well, what man says. Well, man says that to be an Israelite, you got to have fringes and a beard. Ain't that what man says? That's all you got to do is fringes, beard, and, sit by yourself on the Sabbath. So now we start to become these man pleasers. We start to put man in admiration more than what the Most High says. So remember, Paul was killing that noise. He would say, listen, this is my wisdom, or this is the law, this is commandment. He always gave that distinction, but he always let us know that the law is good, the law is spiritual, and that he was coming from the law. Right?
Speaking the wisdom of the law.
Right. And that word ordinance, when you look that word up, it tells you it's law. Right. Watch. Go ahead.
Mark chapter 7, verse 5.
So let's go back to the point of the washing of the hands.
Got it.
I just want to hit that because it did pertain to the class. Go ahead.
Mark chapter 7, verse 5. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands?
Read.
He answered and said unto them, Well, hath Esaias prophesied of you hypocrites?
Of you what?
Of you hypocrites? As it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me.
Yeah, they want to do that. They want to do the acts. They want to do the lip service. A dude in the mall said it like that to me. He said lip service. They talk. They want to talk a good talk. They want to put up a good show, a good front by their traditions. Oh, look, we're doing the righteous things, but they're not. They're doing it out of tradition. They're not doing it in the sense of fulfilling righteousness' sakes.
Got it.
Read on.
Verse 7. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men.
The commandments of who?
The commandments of men.
See, so these are not the commandments of the Most High. These are commandments and ordinances that were tradition, things passed down, things that men had ordained that they held in more respect than what the Most High had laid down.
And that's the thing, you know, and some of these things, again, they are laid down by the Most High. Let's make that clear. But what it is men had that held in more admiration than, and the point that we're trying to show is, if I didn't wash my hands, did I sin?
God.
That's the point that we're trying to show. If I forgot, or if I didn't have the chance to, but I was hungry, was I supposed to drop down of starvation,
Right.
then wash my hands when I was passed out, and then eat? Is that what the Most High wanted? See, there are people that will teach, well, it's all law. But no, it's not. Because then you'll put a man in the mind that, wait a minute, if he doesn't, or if he breaks a tradition, then he's a sinner, and he's off. So, yes, the washing of hands was laid down by the Most High. Washing of your body. Remember? He told us to wash our hands, wash our bodies, keep clean. He told us put running water right by the temple.
Yeah.
But
the Most High said, "Be ye clean, for I am clean."
Be ye clean, for I am clean. But if I couldn't wash my hands at that moment, was I wrong? Let's think about it. Let's go to the next point. Let's go to the next one.
And did you want to finish that?
Oh, we'll finish it.
Yeah. Read on.
Verse 8. For laying aside the commandment of God.
For doing what?
Laying aside the commandment
of the Most High. And that was the point.
Yeah.
They pushed aside the commandment and held more to the tradition, the traditional aspect. It's almost like, you know what? I'm going to stick to the letter of the law, but not the spirituality. The spirit of the law. Right? Because if it was about me washing my hands, like you said, why you have a bowl of water for me?
Yeah. How come you didn't help me out?
How come you didn't help me? You corrected me, but then you got the water for me to wash my hands so I can eat with you. Or you just gonna beat me down with the law.
I don't know if it's in the same chapter, but it talks about how they strain at a gnat but swallow a camel.
God.
And where they omit the weightier matters of the law.
Right.
So it's like when these Pharisees, when it came to the commandments of the Most High and their traditions, they forgot that the weightier matter is the law of the Most High. So what does the law of the Most High say? You gotta love your brother like you love yourself. So when they seen Christ and disciples coming and the disciples, they washed their hands. Well, if you got love for your brother,
have that water ready for him to wash up.
God.
Instead of just trying to go and ridicule him over your tradition.
Setting them up to fail.
Yeah, you setting them up to fail.
Suffer not thy brother to sin, like the scriptures say.
Times.
Have that water for him. Oh wait, hey, before you, man, I got that water for you.
God.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. But nah, they was waiting. The whole point was, I'm gonna try to catch you in something through you breaking tradition, but they didn't sin at that point. So y'all get that, right? Let's go to the next point. Let's move it on. We got an hour, and we got a few more points to hit.
God. So, The next point we're going to hit is the tradition of the sinew. So give me Genesis chapter 32 and verse 24. Genesis chapter 32 and verse 24.
Genesis chapter 32, verse 24. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day.
Okay, so we know this is where Jacob wrestled with the angel, and he got his name changed to Israel. Read on.
And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh.
Read on.
And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint.
Go ahead.
As he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me.
Read.
And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with the Most High and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed them there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. For I have seen the Most High face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank.
Okay, so the sinew is a tendon in the thigh, in the leg. So, as the scripture says here, that the children of Israel didn't eat the sinew because of Jacob wrestling with the angel. But is it against the law not to eat the sinew?
Well, this is the problem. Because you have some that believe you're not supposed to eat chicken legs and lamb legs and this leg and that leg, because it said that the children of Israel did not eat of the sinew. Now, let's just look up the word sinew. It's simple.
Sinew.
What you got?
Sinew. It says a tendon.
Right. A what?
A tendon.
A what?
A tendon.
Yeah, it's a tendon. So was it that, we didn't eat the tendons anyway.
Lie.
So you would imagine that what we did was we pulled that tendon out in certain instances. Now, check this out. When the Most High told us to cook the Passover lamb, how did he say to cook it?
Whole.
He said to do what?
Whole. Cook it whole.
You see that? So if you cook your lamb whole and didn't pull out that tendon before you cooked it, were you wicked?
Ooh.
But the law of the Passover said to cook that whole with the entrails and everything.
Yes, sir.
Right? But in certain instances, he would tell us to pull the entrails out, right? Pull out the guts, pull this out, because usually when you cook an animal, ain't that what you do?
Yeah, you dress it. That's why whenever they got the lambs, they would dress the lamb.
It said they would dress the lamb, meaning you would gut it, pull the hair off, do all that, take whatever you had to take out, and you would cook it. But in the Passover, he told us to cook that animal whole. Don't break a bone. We couldn't even break a bone of the Passover. Right?
Got it.
So you weren't going to cut the sinew out. Now, this is the question. Is it unlawful to eat the leg of the lamb? A lamb a leg of lamb. Is it unlawful? Of course not.
Let me get that rib.
Of course it's not unlawful, because it doesn't say it's unlawful.
Yes, sir.
It said we didn't eat of the what? Go back to that verse. It was a tradition. Now let me ask y'all this. Before Jacob wrestled with the angel, it's probably the thing. Did we eat lamb before Jacob wrestled? Did we eat animals that had hind leg? Lamb, deer, chicken, cow, sheep, goat. We ate all that before Jacob wrestled and his thigh was touched and his thigh shrank or out of joint. So what were we doing then? Were we breaking the law? Nah. We weren't breaking the law. What happened was we seen something happen or we heard of something that happened and we said, oh, well, you know what? Let's keep a custom in remembrance of this. That's all it is.
That's all
it was a memorial to remember what Jacob went through. He wrestled with the angel. His name was changed. The fact that he was on one leg doing it was like, damn, that's something to be remembered. So let's just memorialize this time or this instance with, we're going to remember Jacob's fight by removing the sinew from each animal and say, man, this is a memorial. Just like what? When we go do the Passover now, it's law that we do this. We eat the bitter herb, right? Because the bitter herb was to remind us of our harsh times in Egypt. Now that's law.
God.
You eat that bitter herb, right? You eat lamb at the Passover. That's law. So if you're a vegetarian, being a vegetarian is what? Choice and tradition.
Ooh.
It's a choice and it's traditional for some people to want to be vegetarian. But guess what? Not on the Passover. Better follow that law.
Yes, sir.
You see what I'm saying? You see the difference now? You got people that will teach what? Oh, meat is unlawful. It's unlawful to eat meat. Like where? You see my point where you can come up with, and these are just hitting me now as we go through the class.
Yeah.
Because it's not on here. They're looking at me like, where you get that from?
Nah.
Right? But like I would die. You're a vegetarian, right? Or you're a vegan. So you beyond the limit of vegetarian, that's a whole other level, right?
God.
But on the Passover, what do you do?
I take a little bit and go back.
But you still do it. Is the point. You still follow the law because you do have some that teach out there like, oh, meat's unlawful. We were vegetarians
Original
before.
diet.
Yeah, they're like we were vegetarian. No, we weren't. They don't say that. They don't say that, and then they'll be like, well, you're wrong for eating meat.
Mm-hmm.
You're wrong for eating lamb. We were vegetarians. No, the Bible doesn't say that thou was a vegetarian. The Bible said that when you brought your offering, right? Your sheep offering, your this offering, your that offering, you took it and you ate with the priest.
God.
The Bible told us about the law of sacrifice.
Yeah.
And you ate that animal that you sacrificed. When you think we were just burning up thousands of sheep, just tossing them to the wolves? We ate that. So remember, understanding the difference between tradition and law, very important because you don't want to get somebody caught up feeling like they broke the commandment of the Most High and they did it. And then you don't want to teach that to others because then I'm not going to jump. Right? So the sinew, it said we ate out of the sinew. We pulled that out the animal. But was it wrong to eat the thigh meat? So we just wasted a whole back half of an animal?
That sounds real wasteful.
And the beautiful thing is you don't read that anywhere else. You don't read about that instance, and you can't go to Moses' law and say, thou shalt disregard of the hind leg of an animal because of the sinew. It doesn't say that.
God.
It doesn't say that. So for anyone to teach like, oh, well, that's the law, that's wrong. Y'all get that, right?
God.
What's the next one?
You know, I was going to say too, in Leviticus chapter 3, right?
Right?
It talks about how you remove the inward parts of the animal.
Right.
The kidneys, the liver, the caws, the flanks, right? So, but those, it was talking about you remove those and you burnt them with fire. And then when you burned it with fire, that's what you gave to the Most High. You didn't eat that. Because when you read down on it, it tells you, it goes into the fat and how you're not supposed to eat the fat. And then it goes into the blood.
Right.
But it never goes into the sinew.
Right, and that's my point, where
Yeah.
that was something to remember Jacob's fight.
God.
That's what that was. Now, let me ask you a question. If you choose not to eat the hind legs of the animal, are you wicked?
No.
Of course not. So you see how it goes either way?
God.
Like you're not wicked or sinning because you decide to eat them, or because you decide not to. If you decide not to, let no man judge you in your meat or your drink. And we're going to go there. I know I jumped a little bit, but you're not wicked because you decide not to eat thigh meat. I don't eat thigh meat. I just don't like it. I like breast meat.
I'm gonna rest out myself.
I like breast meat. It's just easier to eat. It don't got all the little fat deposits and all that. It's more flavorful, yeah.
I like the whole.
And
I'm not a thigh meat guy, not because of Jacob's situation. That's just my personal preference. I don't like legs.
That's funny.
I don't like eating chicken legs. I don't like the way the meat is. I don't like the way the meat's set up. I like thigh because it's all meat. You could just dip in. You ain't gotta hit no bones. You ain't gotta hit no tendon. You ain't gotta hit no fat.
you don't gotta break your teeth.
Yeah, it's just all meat.
And
I'm a carnivore.
you know, if you look up like the kosher part of an animal, right, on your phone, and you look at the image, you'll see that lower half of the animal. That's what they say is non-kosher. But that goes back to the point that we're trying to make is that isn't law. Like we got that from these fake Jews.
First of all, they got kosher pork, so I'm not listening to them.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to them.
They eat shrimp.
They eat, and they tell you can't eat meat and cheese together, and they pull a scripture. That's their tradition.
That's
and,
them.
and it's lack of understanding of the Bible.
God.
Right? So who are we supposed to follow?
So you're gonna waste half the cow. Because if you look at the image on Google, it's half the cow.
The whole back half?
Yeah, the whole back half of the cow is non-kosher, so they don't eat that.
I'm eating that.
So that's what. But the funny thing is, they probably drink milk, but that back half will come from the milk. That's what the udders is.
Yeah, they eat milk. They eat butter.
Yeah,
right?
see, the udders is right there, so that's on the back half. That's where they get their milk.
But you see how it's retarded and confusion. Yeah. And if you get caught up in the tradition, you'll it's like, wait, I don't eat the back half of the cow, but I drink the milk that the udders come from.
Which is on the back half.
Or I drink the milk. I drink the milk that comes from the udders, and I eat the cheese that comes from the udders.
God.
Like, what sense does that make? Now I understand you're not gonna be eating cow rectum. I get that part. Like you're not gonna go that far to the back, right? But you damn listen. I'm gonna eat some of that meat back there, cause that's some good eating.
Yeah.
But then you wouldn't even be able to like eat oxtails. Like if you follow this, you couldn't eat oxtails.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
See that? Yeah. Now y'all really gonna make me mad. Yeah, bro. I can't eat oxtails now?
Because then that will be non-kosher if you're following
the fake Jews.
The fake Jews tradition.
And if you follow the tradition of man and not what the law says.
Right.
So, but the whole difference between the traditions and the laws, right? Is traditions are not mandatory.
Right. That's what we're trying to show you is that a tradition is not a mandatory thing. Now, so if I choose to eat the thigh meat of an animal, that's not a sin. There's no judgment for that. Now, if I don't do it, there's no judgment for that. Right? So but that's why we went to the definition of the law and tradition to show ordinances have consequence if they're broken. Tradition don't have a consequence if it's broken. Now, we want to keep the righteousness of the law. We want to keep the righteousness of tradition. So, like the next one is Hanukkah. The next one is Hanukkah. Now, again, Hanukkah, just like the sinew, is set up for us to memorialize something. You know, it's funny, Mashaba, I hit him up to double check that Hanukkah was a Sabbath, and he was like, no, because when you look through the law, first of all, Hanukkah is not even in the law of the different feast days, right? But Hanukkah was set up as a tradition. Let's go there. Where we at?
First Maccabees chapter 4 verse 56.
Hanukkah was set up to help us to memorialize and remember something that happened with our nation.
Done. First Maccabees chapter 4 verse 56.
Right.
And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days.
Right.
And offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 5 and 20th day of the month Caslu, with myrrh and gladness.
You see, so this was established as a tradition. And it's a righteous one.
Okay.
You know, the rededication of the temple. You know, it was we were happy about it. You know, we got to get our spot back. But it's not law.
And if you were in the right mind, if you were in the spirit, you would know, and there wouldn't be well, it ain't the law, so I ain't gonna keep it. Right? Because a man and woman that's in the spirit is like, oh, okay, we're doing that in unity, rehearse the righteous acts. Is it unlawful? Is it unrighteous to do Hanukkah? Even though it's not law, is it unrighteous to do? No. Do we need the law to gather?
Right.
See, that's how we got to start looking at things. Now, we know that it's a tradition. It's not law. But somebody that's out the spirit is going to be like, well, it ain't the law, so I ain't going to do it.
Well, you know, when you're splicing it up like that, well, we're supposed to gather together.
That's what I'm saying.
And it says even as the time is approaching more and more, is getting closer and closer to that date, we're supposed to gather together more.
That's true.
So why skip out on another opportunity to gather together with your brothers and sisters?
Exactly.
Why? I mean, yeah, it's not law, but guess what? It's not law that you have to be in class today. It's not law that you got to sit here and watch us. But what have we been doing? Teaching classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday morning. And that's the tradition that we have here. But it's not law. But hey, you want to be here so you can get the information. You want to be here so you can continue to gather with your brothers and sisters.
You want to rehearse the righteousness.
You want to rehearse the righteous acts.
You want to rehearse the righteous acts. There's no law that says, like you said, you got to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. But the righteous, they're going to be like, let me be here. They're not going to, well, nigga, where's that in the law? That I got to be here all them days. Y'all doing too much. The ones that are trying to attain to righteousness and the spirituality of what we do are going to say, oh yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, let me do that. Saturday, oh, I got that.
I'm there.
I'm glad we got class that many days. I'm glad I have that many opportunities to learn. But see, the wicked is like, that ain't in the Bible. So, that many days ain't in the Bible. Scripture say Christ went to the synagogue on the Sabbath.
Right.
That's what I'm showing. You see how the mind can be? So even though we bring out this Hanukkah, just to show that it wasn't in the law of Moses, it doesn't mean you find an occasion not to follow it.
Right.
Because it's not law. It's the righteousness that we're trying to get to.
Yes, sir.
Right? So what other one? Oh, my turn, right?
Yes, sir.
Or has it been my turn?
It's always your turn.
It's never my turn. Right? Did we go over the Passover?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we did go there. Tradition of Hanukkah.
Marriage business.
Right. So let's deal with this one real quick. And I brought this out before. The customs of marriage. Now, let's just deal with one part of the marriage, the betrothal. I'm going to read this real quick. This is the definition of betroth from the McClintock and Strong Bible Dictionary. It says, a man and a woman were betrothed or espoused to each other when they were engaged to be married. It says, among the Hebrews, this relation was usually determined by the parents or brothers. Now, how many of us in here, brothers and parents, hooked us up with our mate? Because I didn't go to her parents and brothers.
I didn't even.
Right?
Definitely didn't.
Okay, hold that thought. So, you're supposed to go to their parents and brothers. Wow, my phone keeps, I'm sorry, y'all. Mute that. Right? So it says the relation was usually determined by the parents and brothers without consulting the parties until they came to be betrothed. The engagement took place very early. Let's see here. Spouse was betrothing. It says the betrothing was performed a 12th month or more before the marriage. Now, it's telling you that our custom of betrothal was 12 months, at least, about a year or more. Now, what if you didn't do that?
Did you break the law?
Well, let's go there. Go to Genesis 24:67. Go to Genesis 24:67. Let me show you something.
Genesis chapter 24, verse 67.
Been through it a lot. Go ahead.
And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent.
First of all, he just met her. When you read the story, he had just met her that day. Right? He had just met her that day.
Ooh.
And he did what?
And took Rebekah.
No, they were betrothed for at least 12 months.
And took Rebekah.
Read on.
And she became his wife.
Now did he sin? You see that? Now, if you're dealing with just the customs of marriage and not what the law says, because the law says if a man take hold of a woman and lay with her, it don't matter how long he betrothed her for, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. That's what the law says. Now, what do we teach here? We say, listen, at least 6 months to a year. Try to give 6 months to a year. Why? So that your marriage is successful. But if a brother don't go the whole 6 or the whole year, is he wicked?
Law.
See, that's why we got to be. So if you look at the tradition of Hanukkah, Passover, sinew, washing of the hands, the same way you look at this tradition of the way we marry, we got to put the separation between the two. Another part of the marriage is this. We married, and the custom was that we had 7-day feasts. We had 7-day feasts, right? Go to Genesis 29 and 21.
Genesis chapter 29, verse 21.
Right?
And Jacob said unto Laban,
Right?
give me my wife,
Right?
for my days are fulfilled.
Jacob was betrothed for 7 years.
Dang.
Was that wrong? No, that's what he agreed to. It says about a year or more, right? But he went betrothed to a woman for 7 years. And now he's like, man, I did my job, give me my woman. Go ahead.
For my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her.
Right?
And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast.
Right?
And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to him.
Right.
And he went in unto her.
Right?
And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for an handmaid. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel?
Right.
Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country,
right,
to give the younger before the firstborn.
Right. So look, Laban was trying to stick to tradition.
Yep.
It's not so done in our country. So he beguiled. Who was that? Jacob, trying to stick to tradition. He could have broke tradition. Right? Could have broke the tradition, but he lied to a man and beguiled him, trying to fulfill tradition.
He didn't know the tradition.
Tradition. Right. Watch. Go ahead. Watch this.
Verse 27. Fulfill her week.
Fulfill her what?
Her week.
Meaning what? Keep the 7-day wedding. Because that's what he was doing. He was doing a 7-day wedding. When he said fulfill her week, we did 7-day marriage weddings, marriage ceremonies. When you go into Samson, he had a 7-day ceremony. Now, how many ceremonies did you have?
0.
Yeah, you didn't even have 1 day, right? Like nobody in here, we ain't got time for no ceremonies like that. Are we wicked because we didn't have a 7-day feast at our weddings? He was married before he got to the truth. Is he wicked because he didn't go to her parents, because he didn't do 7 days? You see, you got to bring it out like this, and we have to make sure that we're teaching the right things, because you don't want a man to feel like he's breaking the law, a woman to feel like they're breaking the law, because they're not holding to what we know as tradition and what we know as law, right? Let's go to another one real quick. I'm speeding through this because there's a lot of reading. Go to another one, vows, the tradition of vows. So, and you know, I know we've been in this Genesis reading a lot, so y'all getting a little repeat. But let's go to Genesis 24 and 2. vows, the hand under the thigh tradition.
Genesis chapter 24, verse 2.
Read.
And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house,
Right.
that ruled over all that he had, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh.
Right.
And I will make thee swear by the Most High.
I will make you keep a vow. Go ahead.
The Most High of heaven.
Right.
And the Most High of the earth.
Right.
That thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of Canaanites among whom I dwell.
Right, because this is when Abraham sent his servant out to go get Rebekah. So he said, listen, man, make a vow to me. Put your hand under my thigh. Make a vow to me that you're not going to let my son marry a Canaanite. You're going to do the things that I say you're going to do. You're going to do it in this order. Right? So that was one instance. The hand under the thigh. Go from there. Go to Genesis 47:29.
Genesis chapter 47, verse 29.
Right?
And the time drew nigh that Israel must die.
Uh-huh.
And he called his son Joseph, and said unto him, If now I have found grace in thy sight,
Right?
put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh,
Go ahead.
and deal kindly and
he said, so
truly.
he said, put your hand under my thigh and do what? So Jacob was just following what?
Abraham.
Right.
Tradition.
And who was Abraham? His granddaddy, right? Now, in a lot of different things, Jacob followed Abraham.
Got it.
When he said, obviously he followed him in the law, but Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, they both followed Abraham in a few things. When Abraham went to Egypt and was like, that's my sister. Say yes, you my sister, so they don't kill me. Didn't Isaac do the same thing?
Yes.
Right. Now, was that law? He was following the tradition, right, of how to not get killed in a foreign land. Right? So he said, pray, put your hand under my thigh. Go ahead. And deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. Because what was going on, this is after Jacob found out that Joseph was alive. He brought him back out to Egypt. Jacob was about to die. He said, before I die, let me bless your sons. But he said, listen, do me this solid. Put your hand under my thigh and vow this vow that when I die, you ain't going to bury me in this land. You're going to take my bones and bury me with my fathers. Right? Now, let's go to Deuteronomy 23 and verse 21.
You know, another point also on this Genesis with Jacob. Remember, Abraham, he had the brother put his hand under his thigh. He made a vow with his servant, right?
Right.
Concerning Isaac.
Right.
Now, Jacob, who wasn't even born yet, he went and he did the vow, but he wasn't even born when Abraham did it. That means that at some point, even though it's not written in the scriptures, that means at some point, Jacob learned that.
Yeah,
he saw that.
He saw it, or it was told to him like, hey, but that was the old way of.
That was the old tradition.
Old tradition. Because watch, let's see what Deuteronomy 23 and 21 says.
Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 21.
What were you going to say?
I was gonna say that kind of reminds me of like how people will shake hands. Like some people will do like this, and then other brothers do it like this, like the forearms.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Well, whose tradition is this? That's the European way. Get all them germs. What do we do? Right now, is it unlawful if we do this? How does someone touch everybody's hand germs?
Done.
But is it unlawful if you shake hands a different way?
Law.
Nah.
When I was in Minnesota, I met these Arabs, and they're like, be like doing the little greeting, and this man told me when it's their brother with the brother, they touch their noses with each other.
Ew.
Okay, that's why.
That's mighty close to nose in his face.
Yeah, it's like they literally
They're about to kiss each other.
touch their nose with each other. That's a sign of like they're that close in the sense of like, okay, if there was another person, another nation of people that go and say hi, give them the same greeting, they'd just be like, what up? But like they're close kindred or whatever, they're like, boom. They showed me, I was like, man, y'all trash, bro.
Go ahead, read that. Deuteronomy 23:21.
Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 21. When thou shalt vow a vow unto the Most High, thy power,
Right.
thou shalt not slack to pay it.
Wait, no. Put your hand under the thigh.
Thou shalt not slack. When thou shalt vow a vow unto the Most High, thy power, thou shalt not slack to pay it.
Go ahead.
For the Most High, thy power, will surely require it of thee.
Read.
And it would be sin in thee.
Right.
But if thou shalt forbear to vow,
right,
it shall be no sin in thee.
Go ahead.
That which is gone out of thy lips.
No. When you put the hand on the thigh, that's when it counts.
From top.
Read again. Don't highlight when you read it. That's when you're messing up.
Okay.
Just read.
When thou shalt vow a vow unto the Most High thy power, thou shalt not slack to pay it. For the Most High thy power will surely require it of thee, and it will be sin in thee. But if thou shalt forbear to vow it, shall be no sin in thee.
Right.
That which is gone out of thy lips.
You see, it was about what went out of your mouth. The law is telling us that. It wasn't if you put your hand under the thigh or not that binded you to the vow. So if a brother is like, hey, can you pick me up from work today? And I'm like, yeah, brother, I'll pick you up. But I didn't put my hand under his thigh.
Promise me, brother, you're going to pick me up.
No, but I didn't put my hand under his thigh. Like, am I not still bound to that?
God.
And if something changes, then I have to let him know something changed. Yeah, brother, I'm going to be there at this time. Oh, well, you know what? I didn't put my hand under the thigh, so I'm not bound to that. The scriptures say you're bound to what comes out of your lips. The tradition, it was a tradition of taking an oath that some men kept. But you don't read that through the Bible. You don't read Paul telling Timothy, hey, listen, put your hand under my thigh. When you go run these churches, you better make sure you do it right.
God.
Nah, he said, listen, man, handle your business. Be a good steward of the word. Hold the ordinances as they are delivered. He didn't say you got to put your hand under the thigh and that's going to bound you to the vow. So remember, we're bringing these different things out to show, man, that because I didn't eat the sinew or because I didn't go and pull the sinew out of an animal, or because I didn't wash my hands, or because, I might have trimmed my beard down a little bit. Because traditionally, we kept beards stouty. We had stouty beards. We didn't really trim them down too much. But even in that, I kind of look at you like, where's your beard? Like, what you mean? It's right here.
Right.
Well, it ain't big enough for you to be a priest, brother.
It's true.
Or you ain't got enough gray hairs in your head to teach. What? What's that at?
You're not old enough.
Right, or you're not old enough to teach. Like, but where? Where does it say that? We got to be very careful, right? Read on.
Thou shalt keep and perform, even as a free will offering.
You shall do what?
Keep and perform.
Yeah, what comes out of your lips. That was the most important part. What you said, you did. Now, let me say this. There are traditions, again, that are righteous. I got to keep saying that. Like Hanukkah. Right? So, I'm gonna hit you with this one. Go to, and Thawam just said it to me. And just to bring a little balance, go to 1 Peter 2 and verse 13. Just to bring a little balance, man, we got to make sure that we're balanced. But even in this scripture, watch this. Watch this.
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13.
Go ahead.
Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man.
It said every ordinance of man. Go ahead.
For the Most High's sake.
Right.
Whether it be to the king
right.
as supreme,
right,
or unto governors.
Now check this out. Isn't homosexuality a new tradition?
Yeah.
So don't we have to distinguish what we submit ourselves to?
Yeah.
Right. Now, someone's gonna argue about Hanukkah. Well, it's not the law, so I ain't gotta keep it. But they'll give themselves over to homosexuality. Boom. You give yourselves over to evil. Boom. But it says to give yourselves to the ordinance of man, but we still have to distinguish which ones. You still got to be careful because the new tradition is to be gay.
Yeah, man.
Pansexual.
Pansexual, whatever sexual. The new, pedophilia, dogs, cats, rabbits, snakes, right? The new tradition is for a woman to shame her man in public. That's the new thing now. So we got to be careful what we do give ourselves to. So we can't. It's saying submit yourself in righteous tradition. So Hanukkah, boom, right? Good eating, boom. If the scriptures say a man that's sick eat herbs, then he should submit himself to that to get better.
Yeah.
The tradition of eating vegetarian to get himself better. You see what I'm saying? So you got to know what to submit to and the difference. So when it says every ordinance, you still got to be careful. Go ahead, read on.
Verse 14.
Right?
Or unto governors,
right,
as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers,
right,
and for the praise of them that do well.
Go ahead.
For so is the will of the Most High.
Right, the will of the Most High is for us to keep the Passover. Go ahead.
That with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men.
Ain't that what we do? We put to rest that ignorance of Christmas. When we're on our Hanukkah high, 8 days, right? Get it. And they got one lousy day. Man, we kill that foolishness, man. We kill that noise.
Smash it.
Kill that noise of, oh, this is the most wonderful time of the year. We kill that because you get one time. You get one day.
You get one day the whole year.
You get one day the whole year, and all the righteous acts that we do, we show that there's a wonderful time all the time. All year round, if you're doing it in righteousness. Now, let's go to James real quick. Because we don't want to be spoiled, right? A question? Oh, somebody got a question on the topic?
Yeah. Well,
I'm not going to take it if it's not on the topic.
it's on the topic.
Let's see, where's that?
So,
Shalom. Do you know if you are going to get, I don't know if you're going to get this, but is a man having more than one, I'm assuming it's more than one woman,
yeah.
right?
Got it.
I'm assuming it's more than one woman. Well, there's no law that says thou shalt have more than one woman, or thou must have more than one woman. Well, before I even answer, rewrite your question because it says more than one, and then you didn't say more than one what? So more than one car, more than one, more than one jacket, more than one house, more than one headband,
Chariot.
more than one chariot. Which one? I already know. I already know. I already know that it's more than one woman. But there's no law that says you have to. Right? But there's no law there's no law that if you do, there's a punishment.
Right.
So, all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. That's up to each man's discretion. Now, yes, it was customary. I'm going to use this word customary. It was customary in the Hebrew lifestyle that some men had multiple wives or more than one woman or more than one wife. But when you read through the scriptures, think about it. You had Solomon, he had 1,000 wives. You had Paul that had 0. Was Paul wicked? Right, yeah, Yahushai. No woman. It doesn't talk about that. Was Yahushai wicked? Was Paul wicked for having 0 women? Was Solomon wicked for having 1,000 women? No. We knew that Solomon's problem was the women of the other nations. But it wasn't the number. Because let's deal with David. Was David wicked for having more than one? No.
What about Moses that actually gave the law?
How about Moses that had more than one? He gave the law. He never gave a law against it. There was no repercussion for having it. So, again, yes, you can look at that as customary or tradition, right? But there's nothing that said thou must have multiple ribs or thou shalt not have multiple ribs. Because there was many men that had none, one, or more than one. We had different instances in the scriptures. So yeah, it was tradition. It was customary. It was customary. So either which way you went with it, you weren't wrong. Every man, remember, but now There was one thing that was told to us when you go into Timothy's about a bishop. In order for a man to take this leadership stature, this leadership position, he had to be the man of at least a first wife. He had to. Why? So that way, if you're a bishop and you're giving marriage counsel, you know how to come with the marriage counsel.
Yep.
You know how to come with these different. You have the experience. You see that? So for certain positions, yeah, you got to at least be the husband of a first wife before you can go take a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. So yeah, it was tradition, customary. Right, woman. God. No, I knew you was going at. I knew you were going. What is that? Interspecies erected. I don't know what that is. Yeah, they got kosher pork. That's why you can't follow them fake Jews. They got kosher pork because their definition of kosher is traditional, where we deal with law. Kosher means in Jewish tradition, it's how it's prepared.
Like not brine, but
Oh, the way they salt it and then
yeah,
they preserve it.
preserve it.
The way their hands got to be clean and this and that and that. But you can't have kosher pork.
Nah.
There's no such thing. It's already unclean. You see that? So that's why you can't get caught up in tradition, right? So we can't let men spoil us. Go to James 3:1.
James chapter 3, verse 1.
And this is my message to the ones that are teaching that it's all law. You're wrong. And this is why. Read.
James chapter 3, verse 1.
Go ahead.
My brethren,
Read.
be not many masters.
Be not what?
Many masters.
Yeah, you better listen. You better know what hat you're trying to wear and be careful what you teach.
Ooh.
Why? Read on.
Knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation.
Yeah, the ones that are given the teachings, the ones that are saying, oh, that's law, that's book. 6-month betrothal, that's book. No, it ain't. Better be careful. Oh, like you got. Listen, you got schools that teach that you can't have more than one wife, and they say it's a sin and that you're wicked if you do it. Now, it's different if you say, well, that's our rule to be in our school. You can only have one wife to avoid all the confusion and all the relationship mishaps and whatever they think comes with it. In this school, more than one wife. And that's fine if you say that's your school rule. But when you start calling brothers wicked for having multiple ribs, and they're off and they're out the spirit and this and that and that, the condemnation is going to hit you, man, because that's not in the law.
What is in the law is if you choose to take another rib, how to deal with it.
How to deal. Go ahead.
Knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation.
Right.
For in many things we offend
No,
all.
that's it. Go to Romans 2:19.
Romans chapter 2, verse 19.
Go ahead.
And art confident that thou thyself art a guide of the blind.
Right? Because a lot of brothers and sisters are. You're confident that you're a guide of the blind. Right? Hey, don't do this. The Bible says. Don't do that. The Bible says. Look, be careful here because the scriptures say. You got all the. I'm going to guide the blind. Go ahead.
A light of them which are in darkness.
Right? Read.
An instructor of the foolish. A teacher of babes. Which has the form of knowledge and of the truth in the law.
It says it has a form of knowledge.
Ooh.
And truth in the law. Read.
Thou therefore, which teachest another.
Come on.
Teachest thou not thyself.
Ooh. You see, we got to be careful. Because you'll teach another, like, yeah, you're breaking the law, or the whole book is the law, right? The whole book is not the law. And you can't say that to somebody that's a babe or young, because then they'll hold on to that and be like, damn, the whole entire book is the law? Wait a minute. So that means that if I miss one day of Hanukkah, I'm wicked? That means that if I eat thigh meat, I'm wicked? That means if I don't wash my hands, I'm wicked? But damn, I ain't washed my hands. I never was raised to wash my hands growing up when I ate. I was never raised on it. I was never raised this. I was never raised that. And you'll have a person feeling like they're wicked and they'll condemn themselves. But you got some that teach certain things, man, and they're no better than the ones that they're trying to steer. They're no better because they have issues themselves. And that's why it's hard for some to see what is fact and what is fiction, what is law and what is tradition, and that there is a separation. Go ahead.
Verse 21. Thou that preachest a man should not steal. Dost thou steal?
Yeah. You preach and don't steal, but somehow you doing something underhanded. Oh, don't do that. You breaking the law, but wait a minute. Don't you got a drug problem? Wait a minute. Don't you got a pride problem? Wait a minute. You ain't even around. You don't unify. You don't do this. You don't do that. Like I talked about it on the Sabbath, man. You got the ones that come up with their own righteousness. Like, I'm going to establish my own righteousness of the law. Like it says in Romans 10. I'm going to riddle you and belittle you, but then if I show up for the Passover, I'm good. Where does it say that?
Only show up for
Where
the
does it say
Passover.
to show up for the Passover and you're good with the Most High, but you could just be wicked as hell for the rest of the 364 days of the year. But then as long as you're there for Passover, you got brothers that think like that. That's why I'm laughing, because it's funny to me. It's funny to me because everything else I can throw out the door, or I can come down on you with 50 million thousand scriptures because I know them, and I can instruct you because I feel like you're blind, but then I'm not instructing myself. We got to be careful because you'll be nothing different than a Pharisee, nothing different than a Sadducee, nothing different than a hypocrite. Read on.
Verse 22.
Thou
that sayest a man should not commit adultery.
Right.
Dost thou commit adultery?
Yeah. You got men that'll point out other men's ill doings, but they're doing worse. You got men that will sit there and point out 15 years of what they consider to not be right. But then what are you doing now? What are you doing now to fix things? What are you doing now to help things? Go ahead.
Thou that abhorrest idols.
Right.
Dost thou commit sacrilege?
Yeah. Read.
Thou that makest thy boast of the law. Through breaking the law dishonorest thou the Most High.
And that's what happens. You make this boast in the law, but then you break it, and that's where the dishonor comes, because of it's about what a man holds himself to, what standard, what level. Go ahead.
Verse 24. For the name of the Most High is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you.
And this is where people that don't understand the foolish, where it says the Gentiles, where it says the babes, the instructors of the foolish, they're Gentiles in the mind, man, because they don't know no better. The name of the Most High is now blasphemed through you because of the bad examples, because of the hypocritical mind state that I'm going to beat you down with correcting you and putting you in place, but the scriptures say avenging all disobedience once your obedience is fulfilled. A lot of men don't want to hear that. A lot of women don't want to hear that. Like, I gotta at least try to attain to some obedience too. Wait, I can't just be a rogue agent and teach?
Dang.
No, you can't, because then you'll teach wrong. You'll instruct the babes and the foolish the wrong way. You're supposed to be a guide of the blind, but how can the blind lead the blind?
They both fall in the ditch.
Yeah. How can Satan cast out Satan? You can't. We got to be careful, man. Like, read on. Finish it.
Verse 24.
I ain't going there.
For the name of the Most High is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written.
Go ahead.
For circumcision verily profiteth.
That's it on that. Go to Colossians 3. Go to Colossians 2 and 8. I'm not here.
Colossians chapter 2 verse 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Yahushua.
And that's what you don't want. That's why, the scriptures that we hit in the beginning, talking about when you read, you shall understand. It's to avoid this. It's to avoid that you don't get spoiled through vain deceit and vain philosophy and the traditions, and especially with us, man, because the traditions that a lot of us follow, unfortunately, comes from these fake Jews.
God.
And not from the Bible itself. So we definitely want to get in the book and read and follow Yahushua the way it's supposed to be followed.
God.
So go to Galatians chapter 1, verse 14.
Galatians chapter 1, verse 14.
Go ahead.
And profited in the Jews' religion above many, my equals in mine own nation.
This is Paul speaking. Read.
Being more exceedingly zealous of the traditions of my fathers.
So, see, right here, Paul was talking about how he was exceedingly zealous over the traditions of his fathers.
But was it Paul always on point? Paul was persecuting the churches.
Exactly.
Killing Christians.
God.
Ooh.
So how on point was Paul about his zealousness, about the traditions that he followed?
God. Because he was following the traditions of, like it says, his fathers.
Thanks.
His fathers were Pharisees.
God.
So he was following the Pharisees and the Sadducees, that tradition, and not the laws.
And it shows you that it's not just the fake Jews. It's false brethren that crept in unaware.
God.
Think about the problem with Israel is this. Is it fake Jews that's teaching us? Or is it brothers that took their understanding and what they want and made it a book? Like the book of Enoch, that's y'all's tradition. Right? No multiple ribs, that's y'all's tradition. That's made up.
Yeah.
Right? Anal sex, that's another camp's tradition. I could go through the whole list. Y'all made up a tradition and ran with it. But that's brothers in Israel.
Yeah.
But that's why the scriptures say, let no man spoil you through tradition and vain doctrines and things like that. Because forget about the fake Jews. We know they're garbage. We ain't dealing with them. We're dealing with brothers that took what the word of the Most High was and made it into something that was their own custom and way. We got to be careful because that's why you have so much doctrine out here. And our job is to be able to separate doctrine and tradition. What's book and what is this something that we created at that time to memorialize or remember something?
God.
What was created at that time for the children of Israel to remember that this happened on this day? Right? Are we all supposed to go out and just dig 7 wells? Because Abraham did it?
Nah.
Right? But his sons kept up that tradition. Right? The tradition of the Sabbath. Buying and selling. Who came up with that? Because that's not in Moses' law. That's not in the law. That happened at that time. And then what happened? The white man just held on to that and was like, well, we're going to do that too. Oh, and guess what? We won't eat on the Sabbath. We won't light a fire. We're going to lay in the coffin of our bed and just never move. Who created that tradition? That's not in the law. Because the law of the Sabbath was that we gathered together, had fun, talked to one another, convocated, right? A holy gathering. So we didn't gather just to be silent. We didn't gather together just to starve. But you see how if you take what tradition and separate it from law, you'll get the understanding that, wait a minute, buying and selling on the Sabbath, if I go buy something on the Sabbath, I ain't wicked. But if I buy something, if I don't, I'm not wrong either. Y'all get that, right?
God.
Right, where we at?
Yeah, we can.
Right, so any questions?
Yeah, we can end it.
Any questions on the difference? Yeah, it was a good class, man. I mean, we got to know these things.
It was definitely, for myself, intense and valid, for especially after the seasons that we came out. You know, like in the beginning, how the introduction of the whole class, we're speaking on Christmas and stuff like that, and speaking on traditions of these people. Like, in my family, I got heavy, intense Christianites, you know what I'm saying? And they'll be like, oh, this is the reason for the season type stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is the wickedness of it. It's like, oh, man.
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate what Quatazab said, it's not even just our family members, but it's people that's in the truth too.
Mm-hmm.
The divisions amongst the schools and the camps. the traditions that some schools want to hold on to. That's not actually book. That's just what they choose to do in their school, which is fine. You know, they're not going against the law on some things in some of these schools, but some of them they try to make it seem like it's law.
Right. Let me clear something up, because halal. Wait. Halal and kosher are the same thing.
No.
Halal is when they drain the blood. I know that.
Yeah.
Well, that's kosher too. When you
Right.
purify the meat and salt is a way to do that.
Well, I know, like the Muslims, they deem something halal because the way they kill it, they drain the blood out. It didn't die of itself. They pray over it. That's what is deemed halal. Now kosher, because Thawon hit me up about it just now. He said it's the same thing. It's just that they drain the blood out. And they drain the blood, they didn't strangle it. But
I think it's prayed over too.
and it's also prayed over.
Yeah.
But either way, I think the point that we were trying to bring out was the fact that they have kosher pork. And that's now a tradition of men. I just wanted to make that clear about the kosher, though. It's how it's killed. Which, it goes into the preparation of it. So both are right. But I definitely know they drain that blood out. That's one thing. When you go to the Muslim meat markets, you see their red meat, the lamb, they got no blood in it. It's all drained.
Yeah, it has to be cut from the
jugular. And we've seen it done. When we go get the lambs, man, they do it right in front of us. Or we do it. Blood starts spewing out. Boom, boom. They drain it. Boom. When you get that meat, it's not all bloody. It's not all. Yeah. But if you go to the supermarket, you'll get bloody steak. That's where all the bacteria and stuff is.
Yeah.
So the way it's killed. But the point is they allow pork and shrimp. in both customs. Judaism and in Islam. Y'all see that? Right. So anything else? Any questions? Good class out. Let's not forget Moses did the same thing Paul did. Right, and that's the point that Paul and Paul, because brothers is hitting me up. Paul did what Moses wrote. Paul either edified on it or gave wisdom on it or reiterated it. That's why he came back in Romans 7 and said the law is good, the law is just, the law is holy, the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. So remember Mustafa, Paul wasn't trying to establish his own thing with that head covering. He was reiterating what was established from the beginning of time. Anything online? Good class. Good job. Please clarify those last 2 points on cooking and buying on the Sabbath. Are those laws or traditions? Let's go there real quick. Cooking and buying on the Sabbath.
Yes, sir.
Right? Let's go there real quick. He said, can you edify Aggie City? Can you please clarify those last 2 points on cooking and buying on the Sabbath? With the sinew, we ate the thigh meat. All you have to do is go back to the Passover. Go back to the Passover lamb, right? Let's do one thing at a time. Let's do the buying and the selling. Let's deal with that. Let's go to Leviticus 23 real quick.
Exodus 35.
Let's go to Leviticus 23.
God.
Read that.
Verse 1. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying,
Right?
Speak unto the children of Israel,
Right?
and say unto them, concerning the feasts of the Most High, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations,
Right.
even these are my feasts.
Right?
6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation.
So it was a rest from what? It was a rest from your works, your money making work that you did. So if you were going to work as a carpenter or a blacksmith or a sheep herder or whatever it was, you rested from that. Go ahead.
Ye shall do no work therein.
Right?
It is the Sabbath.
Well, let's pause real quick. He said it's a holy convocation. So it was a summons, right? A holy summons. It was the act of summoning by, or assembling by a summons. So wouldn't it take work for me to ride my ass to the temple?
Got it.
When I say ass, I'm talking about an actual donkey. Wouldn't it take work for, giddy up, right? Giddy up, right? That takes work.
Yep.
Takes work to just get there. So we got to look at what type of work it's talking about. Well, you weren't doing your own work that made you money, but you were doing work to get to the Sabbath. You had to. You had to work to get there. That's one. Either way, you had to walk to gather, or ride your animal to gather. You were making your animal work.
Yep.
But on the Sabbath, we tell you that the animals rested, right? Right.
Oh.
But how we gather together if there wasn't work involved? So we got to put the difference of what work is talking about. Your own personal job or the work to get there. Well, you have to work to get there in some instances. You have to travel.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
Go ahead.
It is the Sabbath of the Lord
Right.
in all your dwellings.
Right.
Verse 4. These are the feasts of the Most High.
Right.
Even holy convocations.
Right. So we got that established, right? Give me the one where it says,
It's Exodus 35:1.
is that what it is? Where it says about how it's kindle a fire?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, give me that. Exodus 35 and verse 1.
Exodus
Verse 2.
Exodus chapter 35, verse 2.
Right?
6 days shall work be done.
Right?
But on the 7th day there shall be to you an holy day,
Right.
a Sabbath of rest to the Most High.
There it is.
Whosoever doeth work therein shall be put to death.
Right?
Ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations.
Throughout your what?
Throughout your habitations.
Look that word up. Habitations. Because if I was gathering, how could all the people fit in one person's habitation? No, there was a specific, dedicated gathering place. Right? For the whole nation.
It says habitation.
Right?
Place of abode.
Wait, your what?
Your place of abode.
So we weren't going to gather the whole nation in my tent.
Or a house.
Yeah, the whole nation couldn't gather in my house. So the point was that I wasn't at my house.
Yep.
If there was a gathering by summons and I had to be there because the law said gather together. Right? Not just one family. This is how you know it wasn't like, oh, my family is gathering on the Sabbath and we good.
Right.
All the families gathered together. So when it says you shall not kindle a fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day, that means you left your house.
Yeah.
And you gathered in a designated place, which was what? The temple.
God.
You went to where you went to the temple. And that's where everyone gathered. Now, if it was a feast day, that means what? You did light a fire to cook. You cooked on that day. There's another scripture that does say it. You should not work unless you the feast for the Sabbath. It says it. It says it. Dang, I need that one. Somebody find it. But you did light a fire, just not at your house. So we did cook on the Sabbath because it was a holy feast day. It was the Sabbath was a weekly gathering, a weekly feast, a weekly party. Right? And when I say party, meaning we got together, we talked, we worried about the well-being of our neighbor. You stopped your own work and worried about what the next man was on. And you talked to him and dealt with him. We did eat, we did drink. We might have cooked stuff the day before, or we cooked stuff right there on the spot, but we did cook. We did light a fire. The tradition of man is, oh, well, it says not to kindle a fire in your habitation, but the point was you weren't supposed to be home to kindle a fire. The tradition of man is I'm going to sit at home on the Sabbath, not gather, and starve. That's what the tradition of man is. And then the Jews took a hold of that, and then what did they start doing? Well, I'm gonna use hot plates. I remember back in the day, I'm like, why are these Jews dying? Because the hot plates are burning up the whole house. Because you got a gang of Jews in New York. And it's like every week you hear this Jewish family died because they left the hot plate on. I'm like, why didn't they just turn the stove on? Ain't it the same thing? Right? Well, now I understand why. Because they were spoiled through the tradition of man. Holding to that tradition and not understanding what the Bible said on the Sabbath, you weren't even supposed to be home to light a fire. Go to where everybody else is and light a fire there. Cook there together. You see that?
God.
Now, let's go to the next point about the buying and the selling. Where is it at? Nehemiah? Again, you can't read in the law where Moses said, thou shalt not buy on the Sabbath. Or thou shalt not sell on the Sabbath. It didn't say that. Why did it come about in Nehemiah's time? Well, it came about because if you know the story of Nehemiah, and we're going to read it, not the whole story, but we're going to read the verse, and I'll give you a prequel. Israel was so off. Listen. Israel was so off in Nehemiah's time that Nehemiah was ripping the beards out of Israelites. He was ripping their beards off, and he cast off their children. Why? Because their children were, instead of learning the language, the Hebrew, they were learning the language of the other nations.
God.
Spoke no Hebrew.
They spoke no Hebrew, so they were basically them heathen children, even though they were Israelites by blood. Nehemiah went in there and he cleaned house because that's how detrimental the situation was.
God.
Right? To get Israel back on track, he had to go to extreme. I call those extreme measures, but they were according to what the Most High wanted. When you're ripping out a man's beard, like, bro, you're not even an Israelite. Get up out of here. Right? Get your children out of here that are Israelites by blood, but they're not Israelites. Get them out of here. Get rid of the wives and the children. Why? To get that folly away from Israel.
God.
So what was going on was the heathen, they knew how to distract us. So even when we said, you know what, let's go to the temple because the Bible says for us to gather,
Right.
the heathen knew, wait a minute, let's pop up shop right in front of the temple, right in front of the gates before they got to the temple. Oh, damn, new cars? Whoa, well, give me a new car. Well, you're supposed to go to the temple and worship the Sabbath, or celebrate the Sabbath with everybody. Well, you off buying a new chariot. You off buying fish and pork and all the things that you didn't need at that time. Yep. So Nehemiah had to institute, listen, there's no commerce on this day. But is that in the law? Did Nehemiah come with the law? Read it.
Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 31.
Right.
If the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day to sell,
right, that
we would not buy it of them on the Sabbath,
right,
or on the holy day,
right,
and that we would leave the seventh year, and the exaction.
Slow down. Read it from the top and just slow down a little bit.
Okay.
Don't. I know I'm turned up, but
verse 31. And if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day to sell, that we would not buy it of them on the Sabbath, or on the holy day.
Or like what?
Or on the holy day.
Right. So this is not just. But you see how they're like, you can't buy and sell on the Sabbath.
Right.
But it says holy day too. How come y'all ain't on the holy day thing? How come they ain't on the holy day part? You never hear that, right?
Yeah. How come you didn't prepare 8 days worth of food before the feast?
Thank you. So you're supposed to prepare 8 days of food before Hanukkah? 8 days of food before unleavened bread? 8 days of food before Purim? Those were all feast days.
Don't you dare warm it up either.
But it don't say that. You see where it doesn't say like you got to prepare 8 days of food for the feast? Feast of Tabernacles is how many days? 7? And the feast?
God.
Holy day.
And it's a holy day. So were we supposed to prepare 7 days worth of food? It says in Nehemiah, Sabbath or holy day you don't buy. But you see how you got to be careful? It's not law. It's what was needed at that time.
God.
Now, I'm going to say this. That is needed at this time. It'll keep Israel out the damn walls, right? And get them in class. But is everybody going to hold to that? No. And are we in captivity? Yeah. So what if I work Monday through Friday, 12 hours a day, and I can't get to the grocery store but Saturday? Am I wicked for buying? No. I'm not wicked for buying because I didn't break the law. Am I wicked for not buying? No. If I choose to follow what Nehemiah says, I can't be like, well, I'm following what Nehemiah says, and if you don't, you're off. You're a sinner. That's where we got to draw the line. It's not a sin. There's no repercussion if I go buy gas on the Sabbath day. The only repercussion is if I run out of gas on the Sabbath, now I gotta sit there like a fool on the side of the highway until the sun goes down. Y'all see what I'm saying? No, I'm gonna go buy me some gas, man, so I can get up off the highway. So we gotta be careful. Remember, that's not the law. There was a reason why in Nehemiah's time, Nehemiah had to come down with that hammer, because the people were so off. And we off as hell too, just like that. But are we telling brothers that got heathen ribs and Israelite children to get rid of their children? No, because those are Israelite children. All Israel gotta come back, right? So we like, man, bring your kids in. We ain't like, oh, you got a kid with an Edomite woman and you just learned the truth? Oh, well, guess what? Cast them out and you come sit down and learn. What man is gonna do that? No. Only the unbalanced cats do that. Only the unbalanced Israelites do that. Like, oh, wait a minute. I got an Israelite child by a heathen woman? Man, I'm gonna cast off both. The Bible don't say that. Because why? They're going off of what Nehemiah did at the time and acting like that's law. There's nowhere in the law that says that.
Isn't there somewhere in the laws that say like even if you're both Israelites and one won't follow, you're not supposed to just cast them out?
Talking about it.
I like to
Please go together.
That's not in the law.
Oh, it's not.
You talking about in Corinthians 7, right? But what did Paul say? He said this is not a commandment, right? He was giving you his advice that the unbelieving wife could sanctify the unbelieving husband and vice versa. But the scriptures say, "Be not unequally yoked with an unbeliever." So that's why he was giving his discretion on that, his wisdom, and saying, "Listen, you never know." But what I'm trying to show you is that the things that Nehemiah did, you can't take them and say that that's the law. We know that that's the Bible and that it's book, but it's not the law. You see that? That's the importance. So, yes, buying and selling or not, that's a tradition that somebody took from, or that's something that they took from Nehemiah and made it a tradition. Not kindling a fire and saying, well, oh, you can just not cook at all on the Sabbath. You can't drive on the Sabbath. You can't be warm on the Sabbath. That don't make no sense. But if we start doing the things that the Sabbath say, like gathering, then I won't have to cook at home. If I gather with everybody together, I won't have to buy on the Sabbath. Because everything will be here at the temple. You see that? Yes, so yes, tradition that men took, or things that men took and made tradition. And the problem with it is that it steers Israel wrong. Because now, if I walk over to the Walgreens on a Saturday because I'm parched, you'll have a young brother looking at me like, brother, what the hell are you doing? This school says you're not supposed to buy on the Sabbath. You're wicked. I'm like, what? Hold up. Pump your brakes. Right. You just got in the truth 2 seconds ago. Easy there, champ. You know what I'm saying? You got to pump these young cats' brakes. You've been in 9 years and you think you got it all. That's the new thing. Oh, I've been in 9 years, so I'm in there. I can teach above the elders.
Oh, wow. Or
right?
Some brothers, 3.
10 seconds, microwave Israel. So hopefully we got that. Now the sinew part, it's the same thing. Shara, yes, you can eat that meat. You can eat thigh meat. You can eat thigh meat. It's not unlawful. There's nowhere in the law that when he goes to the dietary law, he says, and the thigh thou shalt not eat, because it was when Jacob fought. Listen, there's tendons throughout the whole animal. There's sinews. You know what sinews are, right? Yeah, it's a tendon that holds the muscle to the bone. So every part of an animal, like our whole body is made up of tendons that hold muscle to bone, just like a cow. They don't just have sinews in the back leg, they have sinews in the front. So toss the whole cow out.
Yeah.
If you ever look at a cow and the meat, it's marbled, the marbling is the meat-fat ratio. Some of that is tendon also, depending on what part of the animal you get. When you get the shoulder, that's the least tendony meat. But when you start getting the leg and going down, it has more tendon to bind that muscle to those bones. So if you look at it as a whole, That means we don't eat no part of the animal that has a tendon, but just remember, that was to signify something that happened. So if you chose to eat the thigh meat, that was on you. You weren't wicked. If you chose not to, right? The scriptures say, let no man judge you in your meat or your drink. But what we're trying to show is that whether which way you go, you can't say, well, you're wicked for one and wicked for the other. So, I mean, is it kind of clear now? Yeah. Hopefully, everybody got that. Aggie student, hopefully you understand that. Again, if you choose to not buy on the Sabbath, that's on you. Just don't say it's the law and that somebody else is wicked for doing it. Or we just didn't eat the sinew. Yeah, the sinew. If you look at the sinew was a long tendon that went from the butt to the joint, with the inside here, and then you had another. And then you have like your Achilles tendon is a sinew.
Yeah.
But it goes all the way from your Achilles to your butt right here. So when you snap that, they'll tell you that they feel a ball because that tendon rolls up. So when you go get surgery, they got to pull that tendon all the way down and then get another tendon and reattach it. Yeah. So you have many tendons.
And it's a thick tendon too. When it's thick, it's real chewy. Like when you're getting your meat and you start getting that little chewy part, and you're like, oh, hold on, let me. That's tendon.
Right. And then the sister from Philly was also showing me that the halal meat, usually, like when you go to these halal farms, they're not hitting the animals with a bunch of antibiotics. It's usually grass-fed, natural diet. So that goes into it too, the way the animal is fed. So when you look at it, we was eating kosher and halal from the beginning, and then the white man came and changed it all up, giving the cows corn and grain. Cows didn't eat corn and grain; they ate grass. Grass-fed animals. Now what they do? They charge you more for the grass-fed beef. But nigga, they always ate grass. What you doing?
That's like, so where I'm from, they have the meat packing plant, and it stinks. And everyone's like, oh, it's probably because we kill the animals there. It's not because we kill the animals there. It's the chemicals they pump into the meat.
Ooh.
So you notice, like we bought some meat from the store the other day. They put the nice red ones on top. Then we opened it up and got the brown. So the red is actually like more of a chemical than blood, if anything.
Yeah, they color the meat.
Yeah.
The meat butchers, will tell you that they color the meat for appearance because that meat's just sitting there for days. Ain't nobody coming and buying that much meat from a butcher. Or from these.
And the brown meat is older meat.
The brown meat is older.
They mix darker meat with
the brown. Yeah. That's how they do it. But a lot of the times that top meat is just the same brown meat that it is colored.
Yeah, he took it back because he's like, yo, I'm not gonna eat that.
Yeah. That's why I don't buy meat no more. I learned. But anything else? I mean, hopefully, only In-N-Out meat that is fresh. Listen, I haven't had In-N-Out in a minute. So, God. The thigh guy here. You started to say he's a thigh guy. Yeah, some people got different preferences.
I like
Do
that.
that. All right. I understand.
The Mexicanos will eat the whole cabeza of the cow, you know what I'm saying?
Cabeza.
You know?
Oh, the head.
No, the cabeza is the head.
Is it barbacoa the head?
Yeah, barbacoa.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's like
Wait,
this.
hold on.
Yes.
Barbacoa is the head.
Go ahead.
That shredded beef is cow face?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Cow head.
barbacoa.
Damn, you talking about we getting burritos?
So when you get burritos from Chick-fil-A,
Barbacoa.
Barbacoa.
right, but when you get burritos from Chipotle and you say barbacoa,
Yep,
that's cow face.
that's cow face.
I don't think so. I don't even
It's
think
the way
it's
it's
spicy.
cooked.
I think it's the way it's shredded. Are y'all sure?
No. Yes, I was
It's
there.
grandma baby.
I was there.
Yeah, that's
It's grandma baby.
Barbacoa. Nah, bro, I gotta know this. Where does barbacoa come from?
Damn.
That's why.
Oh, man.
No.
That's why.
It says it's parts of the head.
That's why they're like barbacoa de lengua or like even,
Oh!
even like if they're gonna eat the eyes and stuff, like
Ew.
they have all that.
I'm gonna stick to carne. I'm gonna stick to carne asada. Carne asada for me.
But
It's
it
tender.
says
It's
an
more-
authentic
it's real
Mexican
tender.
dish typically made with beef, goat, or lamb. It is traditionally seasoned with dried chilies and spices and slowly cooked until perfectly tender. That's barbacoa.
Look, in the U.S., barbacoa is often prepared with parts from the head. Oh, that's in the U.S.
Oh,
So USA uses cow face. Real Mexicans use real meat. the other meat. So
Because I've seen it in Mexico where I watch a lot of YouTube where they have like these giant holes in the ground, and it's not heads that they're throwing into the pits.
It's good
different
parts.
of the meat, and they cover it with leaves, and they let it cook.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a barbacoa, but it's not heads
Oh.
all the time. It's the way it's cooked.
Only in the U.S. is it heads.
In Texas, definitely is the heads.
Wait, it says in northern Mexico it is also sometimes made from beef head,
It's sometimes,
but more often it's prepared from goat meat.
More often.
So
If they
I
got
guess
the
it's what
bread,
you have on
if they
tap.
got the bread like that.
I guess it's what you got on tap.
Yeah.
Con. All right, well. Now we
Because
know.
northern Mexico is from where I'm from. Like the valley, South Texas, they got the norteños from North Mexico. That's what
Yeah,
that
'cause
is.
that's why they eat barbacoa out here in the head. So the north, I get it. North Mexico and the U.S., yeah, they border.
Yeah.
So that's why they do that.
Right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, no questions. Hopefully y'all got that. Oh yeah, I hope I answered both y'all's questions. All right, so 2 people asked the same question. Yeah, about the buying and selling. Well, I guess because the camera said it's allowable to have more than one woman. Yeah, I know. Where were you taking about the bestiality and spirituality along with the homosexual? Oh, okay, yeah, perfect. All right, another good class. We're gonna keep coming with this knowledge. So make sure y'all tune in. They got another good one coming for tomorrow out in VA. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to Virginia Live class. All right. And then we'll be back here on Friday, because today is Wednesday. Wow. All right, well, if that's it, let's salute everybody online. Let's say shalom.
Shalom.
See y'all back.
The Most High is my rock. Rock. The Most High is my rock. The Most High is my rock. The Most High is my rock. In the name of Messiah, the Most High is my rock. The Most High is my rock. The Most High is my rock. Yeah. The Most High is my